Hello everyone, Cindy here with Monarch Mom DIY. So excited to be here today with 3 homespun Christmas tree DIYs for you. For Christmas tree DIY number 1, we are going to be using some yarn, some wood cubes, a sign, doesn't matter what kind, and one of these rusty stars from Hobby Lobby. So the first thing I'm going to do with this sign, this is one I got on clearance at Hobby Lobby, is I am going to tape off the frame so that I can paint the background and paint over whatever sentiment is on your sign that you are originally starting with, unless it is completely plain, and then you can just start with your plain surface. For my project, I am going to keep the wood frame the brown color that it is, and I am going to take Waverly chalk paint in the color Ivory, and I am going to do a first coat over this black sign with the white wording. I really want to get this covered up, but I also want my paint as smooth as possible. So I'm going to try and get this coat even if it's not going to completely cover, and then I'll come back and do a second coat. Next, I'm going to take these 2 different green yarns from Dollar Tree, and I am going to make some tassels. Now you can see here I'm using a Dollar Tree mason jar sign. I'm just going to use this to wrap my yarn. So to make these tassels, you're going to cut a piece and lay it across the top, and then I'm going to wrap around my mason jar shape about 25 times. You could definitely make your tassels fuller if you'd like, or go around less times if your yarn is more chunky. Once I've done the 25 times, I'm going to tie that piece that was laying across the top in a knot really tight across the top of my loops there, and then snip the end of my yarn. Then you can either slide off the loops first or go ahead and cut at the bottom there, the opposite side of where you tied the knot, and just get those off of the mason jar. We are going to kind of even those out so it's okay. Then taking the top where we tied the knot, I'm kind of trying to make it a little more of a ball shape, kind of round, and I'm going to show this loop part here towards the end with a different color of yarn so you can see it a little better. But I'm taking another piece of string, holding a loop there, and then I'm going to wrap it around the neck. And then when I get towards the end, I'm going to take that end through the loop. Again, I'm going to show this with more contrasting colors, and then tie or pull both of those ends. And then I'm going to tie that in a double knot again around the neck just to make sure it's secure, and then add those 2 ends down with my tassel. Then I'm going to hold my tassel where my pinky is right at the neck, and then I'm going to trim my strings right at my fist there. This is a very inexact science to make my tassels. And here I'm going to show you another one. This is with the dark color. Now, you can do all the tassels for your tree the same color if you'd like. I'm choosing to do 2 different colors, and I'll show you all my tassels here in just a little bit. Again, wrapping 25 times. I'm going to tie that string that I laid across the top in a double knot across all of my loops. Then you can see I'm going to kind of scoot my loops down. It's a bunch of loops there, and we're going to cut it so that our tassels are hanging down. Then again, try and round it out so it's not just 2 halves and it's more of like a ball shape. Here's my loop, holding it there at the neck, wrapping the long end of that string, and then putting that end through the loop and pulling the long and the short end, tying a knot. I am going to show you that one more time. Now, there's lots of different ways to make tassels. This is just how I am choosing to do it. It's the best way that I've seen. Again, holding my tassel where my pinky is right at the neck that we wrapped around, and then trimming and getting them all pretty much the same length. Okay, here I'm going to show you the tying with a dark green string on a light green tassel. So getting it kind of in a ball shape there for the top. Here's my loop. I'm holding it against the neck, wrapping the long end. You can see the short end hanging there. The long end, once it gets close to the end, I'm going to pull it through the loop and then pull both of those ends of that dark green string, and then I'm going to tie them in a knot. I hope that helps you see a little bit better how I tied the top of my tassels. And then because this is a contrasting color, I'm just going to trim those. They won't blend in. Hold by my pinky by the neck there and trim them. All right, coming back to my board, my first coat dried. I did see a little bit of the black coming through, so I'm just going to do another coat, another smooth coat of my ivory on my sign. Once I had that paint nice and even, I'm going to go ahead and remove the painter's tape from around my frame while my paint is still wet. That just helps the paint not get dried, drying the tape onto the surface. And then once it's all done, I'm going to take 4 of these wood cubes and I'm going to just glue these at the bottom of my sign to be the trunk of my tree. So just putting a little glue. I didn't even bother painting them because I thought, the natural wood looked cute. So we're going to glue these 4 cubes to be the trunk of our yarn tassel Christmas tree. Next, we're going to start gluing our tassels, starting with the bottom row closest to our trunk. Now, I did 6 tassels in my bottom row. So you see I started with the 2 middle ones, and then I'm going to keep going 1 out on either side until we get all 6 of them. I'm not too worried that those 2 in the middle have the dark green around the neck, because the next row of tassels up is going to help cover that up. So that was 6 in the light green. Next, I'm going to do 5 of the dark green, and you can see I have that one glued so that the tassel is just ending to cover up the head of those light green tassels. So I did 21. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for my rows, and I did start with dark green and then light green and went every other. So again, now you're just going to glue your tassels on. You can see I have them kind of close together. The heads are touching so that the tassels themselves kind of flare out a little bit. And we'll just keep going, gluing these up until we get to the top of our tree. For the top of my tree, I chose to use one of these rusty stars from Hobby Lobby, and I just removed the loop and the hanger from the top with my tin snips, and I'm just going to hot glue this to that top tassel. Tried to glue it a little bit to the back of my sign as well, but I'm just going to hold it in place until it's completely dry. And I love how this turned out. You can make them so many different ways depending on how fluffy you make your tassels and how close you put them together. But I love this project. For Christmas tree DIY number 2, I'm going to revisit another favorite using some nautical rope from Dollar Tree, a round chunky circle, or you can use a round plaque, a bamboo skewer, another one of those rusty stars. Now, I have used a drill before, but I decided just to kind of mark with my scissors where the center was. And then I'm taking my Phillips head screwdriver and a hammer, and I'm just wanting to make a little indent there. I'm going to turn my screwdriver slightly to make it a little more of a hole, and then just kind of work that in there. It doesn't need to be deep. We just want a place to be able to put our wood glue and then stick our bamboo skewer down in there. It's going to be the trunk of our tree essentially. Just make sure you put the blunt end into the glue. You want that pointy end at the top once it is dry. Now, while that's drying, we're going to take our nautical rope. I only had 2 of the thicker ones, and then I had 2 of the thinner ones, but that's okay. You can mix your ropes. It doesn't matter. And I am going to put here on the screen and in the description box, I'm going to try to remember the lengths. I know I'm going to start with 10 pieces that are 8 inches long. And then I'm going to go down from there, 7 inches, 6 inches, and then I believe I did 4 inches, 3 inches, 2 inches. I will put those dimensions in the description box, and you can easily find them there. So I'm just using my ruler, using a good heavy pair of scissors to cut those pieces of nautical rope. Okay, now that our base with the skewer is secure, we're going to start with our 8-inch pieces. And you can see I'm just kind of unraveling the 2 ends a little bit. You do want to be sure not to unravel it all the way to the middle, because otherwise your rope will come off of your tree. Now there are 10 pieces, so I'm just going to continue this process going back and forth, crisscross, putting the middle of my rope on that pointy of my skewer and getting them all as centered as I possibly can. This is a really fun, rustic, homespun Christmas tree that is pretty easy to make. I would say the hardest part of this is cutting through that nautical rope. So if you have some tin snips or metal shears, they will definitely cut through that faster. So this is now all 10 of my 8-inch pieces. And then we're going to move to our 7-inch pieces. It looks like I have 8 of those. And so we're going to just do the same process going all the way up the tree, crisscrossing them every other direction. And now we're to our 4-inch pieces, where I am now starting to use the thinner nautical rope that Dollar Tree has carried in the more recent weeks. And so it's okay though, because it's all the same color. You're getting to the top of your tree anyway, so it's going to be a little skinnier. But we're doing 6 pieces of the 4-inch, and then we'll have 6 pieces of 3-inch, and then just 3 pieces of 2-inch rope to finish off our tree. Then the last thing I did was take another of those rusty stars and cut the loop and hanger off and pried it open a little bit at the bottom to be able to slide it onto the end of our skewer. I love this. I did make one a few years ago and it sold like right away at my craft show. For Homespun Christmas Tree DIY number 3, we're going to take this package of wood shims from the hardware store, some pom-poms, a couple of wood blocks, and we're going to make a shim Christmas tree. Now, these are pretty rough, and these are the ones that are about 12 inches long. They do have some shorter ones as well. So I'm just sanding them all lightly just because I am going to be antique waxing them, and I want them to be just a little bit less rough looking, if that makes sense. All right, now the 2 that we're going to use for our base, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to use 8 of these 12-inch shims. I'm taking 2, and if you don't know, shims are thicker on one end and then they kind of get narrower. So I'm taking 2 where a narrow end and a thick end are together. This is going to give us our base for our Christmas tree. Then I'm going to take 6 more, and we're going to use 3 on each side of our tree. Before we put those together for the tree though, I am going to darken them up with antique wax. I'm just going to use the baby white method and brush that on both sides, front and back, and the sides. And I will also do this to the base, the 2 shims that we glued together once that glue is dried. Next, I decided I'm going to measure up 4 inches, and then that's going to be where the next shim will be glued to the one underneath it. So you can see I'm kind of laying them out there. So we'll have 3 in a row on each side. They're a little long, so it's kind of hard to see them right now, but you'll see when I start gluing them together. So holding this bottom one here, my thumb is at the 4-inch mark. I'm going to put some glue and then line that next one up right on the 4-inch pencil mark that I made, getting that nice and straight, and then holding that one at the 4-inch mark, putting some glue to glue that third one on top. So you can see on the sides there, they kind of are like shingles. They're going to overlap each other a little bit, and we're going to make 2 sets of those. Now at the bottom here, you can see I have the 2 that we glued together. This is going to be the base. So I'm going to put some hot glue on either end of the base, and we're going to kind of glue this, kind of sandwich it between our 2 long sides. I'm going to hold that in place a little bit, and then once that's dry enough, we will put some glue at the top as well. I'll also say that I did reinforce the corners on the inside of the tree with some hot glue. Then taking these 2 wood cubes in my stash, I'm going to glue those together, and then I'm just going to paint these black. This is going to be the trunk of our little tree. I decided I wanted to use some of these pom-poms from Dollar Tree, so I'm going to pull out all of the white, red, and green pom-poms that are the largest size. Next, I'm taking a needle and some thin jute twine, and I'm going to do my darndest to try to thread these pom-poms onto the jute twine. Some of them were getting stuck, so I did have to take them off and put them back on, but eventually I got them strung on there so that we can add these to our tree. Then laying our tree down, I'm just putting little dots of hot glue on the back side of my tree, and I'm just holding and pressing down the jute twine until it is secured enough to be able to do the next piece of the string with some pom-poms. Next, we're going to put a little hot glue on the top of those blocks and line those up right on the center of the base of our tree. So cute. I'm loving this. And then the last thing I'm going to do is take this white star. This is from Magnolia, but you can use any wood star. And we're going to glue this to the top for our third homespun DIY Christmas tree. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed these 3 really cute and fun, easy to make Christmas trees. Let me know in the comments which was your favorite, and we'll see you again real soon. Thanks so much. Take care.